There you go. Sarah Jane, thank you. Let's turn our attention to the world of showbiz now, because one of the men behind some of the most successful acts of the 80s says performances by today's singers are too sexual. Mike Stock, who helped the likes of Kylie and Jason find fame in the music business, has hit out at people like Lady Gaga for the content of their videos and their outfits. Amy Hitchcock reports.
These are the so-called offending images of Lady Gaga. Record producer Mike Stock of Stock, Aitken and Waterman says he's sick of over-sexualised pop stars.
In fact, at the beginning I thought Lady Gaga was a pop act. I realise as it's gone on with the lyrics and the content, she's a pole dancer and it is just about sex, R&B, pop, mainly American and mainly very undisguised sexual images. So that is anti-pop for me.
Let's not forget that this is the man who put Kylie in a little black dress back in 1987. But he thinks she went too far with the hot pants. But before you write him off as a grumpy old man with his opinions stuck in the squeaky clean 80s, bear in mind those opinions still hold sway with mums today. Jill Kennedy says there's growing concern among parents who feel modern-day pop stars aren't good role models.
Because you see the children, the little girls, they're copying what they're doing, they're copying the moves, they're repeating the words. They don't know what they mean, but they will have those words with them and those moves as they grow up and get a bit older. And you know, even under 10, 12, they're too young to be into that sort of sexual stuff. They are still children.
Well, Lady Gaga's being singled out for her rather over-the-top video. Most of you are probably thinking, hang on a minute, this is nothing new. Haven't pop stars always used sexual images to get you to come into places like this and buy their album? Baby, you'll be famous, chase you down until you love me.
I don't think Gaga's a bad influence at all. She's unconventional and she's made the best of herself. She's like her own art installation. If you're going to blame anybody for being sexual, I mean, pick on Elvis. He was the one who started it.
Gaga's not the first pop star to offend, and she certainly won't be the last. So if the world's a stage, then this drama will certainly play on for a while yet. But I'm sure Lady Gaga won't take it lying down. Amy Hitchcock, Sky News.
We're going to talk to the singer-songwriter Helienne Lindvall very shortly. Before we do, a few of your texts today.
Yeah, a lot of people have got views on dirty pop, whether it's good or bad. Paul has sent this tweet. Hasn't pop always been a bit sexy? Remember Pan's People on Top of the Pops, or are we just getting a bit old? That used to be considered risque. Jaden said music is always pushing boundaries, both lyrically and visually, and like fashion, it just sets trends for young people. Jennifer also twittered, what about Madonna? She was doing it way before Lady Gaga. Remember when she released that rather risque coffee table book. But Sue in London has sent this email saying people like Lady Gaga are lowering the already lowered morals of the youth of today. What will our youngsters be like in 20 years' time?
So, what do you make of it, Helienne? Is she setting a bad example?
Lady Gaga? Well, personally, I don't even think that Lady Gaga is geared towards little children. I think most little children would find her videos just weird. And she's more of a Madonna, a weird Madonna that is trying to push the boundaries in art, I think. I don't think it's necessarily anything that would be considered, you know, sexualized, over-sexualized. I think, if anything, he's targeting the wrong people. If anything, hip-hop, misogynist hip-hop, we should be more worried about than Lady Gaga.
Well, we'll talk about that in a moment, but because he did mention Lady Gaga specifically, we know from a lot of her videos she wears very risque outfits. There's a lot of the videos where she's sort of fawning over lots of boys, fawning over lots of girls. I mean, that is sexual, isn't it? There's no getting away from that.
Well, in all honesty, I mean, when I was a child, I liked ABBA, and I remember now when I'm thinking back, I had a poster of them naked, wrapped in aluminum foil. It didn't make me, I didn't look at it sexually. I thought it was quite tasteful, which obviously, that's the one mistake I made, but and you had Boney M. They had their record sleeve. They were wrapped in aluminum underwear with chains. I don't think necessarily a bit of flesh is gonna, you know, make children go out and have sex earlier. I think it's all in the context, and I think that Lady Gaga most of the time comes across as a woman who is in charge of her own destiny and female empowerment in the same way that Madonna was.
It's not just the dressing up, though. We've had a few emails from concerned parents this morning talking about Lady Gaga's lyrics, singing about things like disease and disco sticks. And, you know, children are singing these lyrics without really knowing the meanings of the words and then having to ask their parents what that means. I mean...
Well, what parent would tell them what that means? I mean, you would say that it's, you know, a disco stick that you play with in a game. You wouldn't kind of say what they... I mean, I remember a friend of mine, when the song Horny came out, which is a lot more direct, I think, than that song, Lady Gaga's song, and her 5-year-old son asked what horny meant, and she said, happy. And then, he just walked off, and that was, you know, and all the children were singing along with that song. I don't think it necessarily made them, you know. And it's not too strictly wide of the mark either, so
well,
I think she could probably get away with that.
It has to be said in all of this that it is female artists that come under a lot of pressure and a lot of criticism, and Lady Gaga particularly this time round, but I mean Madonna's had criticism in the past, and all those sort of artists. Why is it that there is more focus on what these women are doing and looking like and saying, rather than, as you said, some of the male artists who, particularly in the R&B culture, do come out with some really, frankly, dreadful comments? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of them, I wouldn't be able to quote this earlier, well, on before the watershed even. I find it disturbing that is, I mean, there's actually a quote from Mike Stock when he said, he specifically criticized Miley Cyrus for being on the cover showing her maturing body, as he puts it, on this cover of, I think it was Vanity Fair. She was on the cover of a very stylish cover, and you think, well, I mean, if you think that is bad, and you then look at somebody like R. Kelly or Lil Wayne, which he does actually, he is in the charts a lot of the time. He had that song Lollipop. He has a song called Hose. Where they speak about women, and they I don't know what words I could use on morning television, but in a very derogatory way, and the way that speaks to young boys, I think that's much more of a concern than because Lady Gaga is actually, I think she comes across, I saw her playing live, as a very strong woman in charge of her own destiny.
It's an interesting debate. At least it's opened it up for discussion. Great to get your views this morning. Thank you. And do let us know what you think. news@sky.com. Text us 84501 if you've got any thoughts on that. Lots online, of course. Go to skynews.com and you can claw back the money again, or the MPs can. They're under the expenses spotlight once more. Coming up, look at the showbiz news with Sally Eden from Fabulous magazine.